Every single day you're being manipulated, not by obvious lies, not by threats, but by something far more insidious, by the hidden architecture of the human mind itself. You think you're in control of your choices, your decisions, your relationships. But what if I told you that your psychology, the very thing you trust most, is being weaponized against you? Welcome to Psycho Veil. I'm your host, and tonight we're diving into the shadow mind, where dark psychology reveals the uncomfortable truths about human nature that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Before we go deeper, let's establish what we're actually talking about. Dark psychology isn't something from a horror movie. It's real, it's scientific, and it's happening around you right now. Dark psychology is the study of the human condition as it relates to the psychological nature of individuals who cause suffering and trauma to their fellow humans. It examines manipulation, persuasion, unethical influence, and the darker aspects of human behavior. The parts most people don't want to acknowledge exist. The key difference between psychology and dark psychology: psychology seeks to understand and heal. Dark psychology seeks to understand and exploit. And here's what makes this genuinely unsettling. These tactics work because they're hardwired into our biology. Your brain, with all its evolutionary advantages, contains vulnerabilities, psychological pressure points. And once you understand them, you realize how easily they can be used. This isn't meant to make you paranoid. It's meant to make you aware. Let's talk about 5 tactics, the ones that work, the ones that people use, consciously or unconsciously, to get what they want from you. The first is social proof, and it's terrifyingly effective. Here's how it works. Your brain uses a mental shortcut. If many people believe something is true, you unconsciously assume it must be true. If many people are doing something, it must be the right thing to do. This isn't stupidity, it's efficiency. Your brain can't evaluate every piece of information, so it outsources the decision. But here's where it gets dark. Manipulators deliberately create the illusion of consensus. An influencer posts a photo with 50,000 likes. Your brain doesn't wonder if they bought those likes. It sees 50,000 people approved of this. So you should too. A cult leader gets 10 people to agree on something radical. Then they present it to a new recruit and say, "Everyone here believes this." The recruit's brain activates its social proof mechanism. Everyone believes it, so maybe it's true. This tactic is so powerful because it bypasses your rational mind entirely. You're not being logically convinced. You're being socially overwhelmed. And the people using this tactic, many of them understand exactly what they're doing. The second tactic is called intermittent reinforcement, and it might be the most addictive psychological force ever discovered. Here's the principle. Your brain doesn't form habits based on consistent rewards. It forms them based on unpredictable rewards. This is why slot machines are so addictive. You're not guaranteed a win. But sometimes, randomly, you get one. And that unpredictability keeps you pulling the lever. Now imagine someone applies this to a relationship. A romantic partner is sometimes loving, sometimes cold, sometimes responsive, sometimes ignoring you for days. Your brain enters a state of psychological chaos. It craves the reward, the validation, the attention. But because it's unpredictable, you become obsessed with obtaining it. You'll do almost anything to get back to those moments of validation. Gaslighting works partly through this mechanism. Abusers create chaos, then moments of normalcy that feel like relief. You become addicted to those moments of peace. Gaming companies have discovered this. They use loot boxes, randomized rewards. Players don't know what they'll get. That uncertainty drives them to spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars chasing that hit of dopamine. The dark part? Once someone understands intermittent reinforcement, they can use it to control behavior, not through force, but through the architecture of your own reward system. The third tactic is deceptively simple: the illusion of choice. People need to feel in control. Even if they're not actually in control, the feeling of control is enough. This is called the locus of control. And when it's threatened, people get anxious. So manipulators give you choices, but all the choices lead to the same destination. A salesman says, "Would you like this in red or blue?" You don't realize the real choice, whether to buy at all, was already made for you by the framing of the question.
A parent tells a child, "Do you want to go to bed now or in 5 minutes?" The child feels empowered. They made the choice. Meanwhile, the parent always wins. The child goes to bed.
But here's where it becomes genuinely dark. Totalitarian regimes use this. They give you choices between two pre-approved options. You vote. You feel democratic. You feel like you made a choice. But the real power, the ability to choose outside the system, was never yours. Psychologically, this is crucial because it preserves the illusion of agency. You don't feel oppressed because you're not aware of the boundaries around your choices. You only see the options you're presented with. The fourth tactic targets something deeply human: emotional vulnerability. We all have wounds, trauma, insecurities, places where we hurt. And when we're in emotional pain, our critical thinking deteriorates. Our defenses drop. We become porous. Predatory people, whether they're abusers, con artists, or cult leaders, they're experts at identifying emotional vulnerabilities. They notice the pain in your eyes, the stories you tell, the patterns in what hurts you. Then they position themselves as the solution. A lonely person joins an online community. Someone reaches out, shows understanding, validates their pain. Within weeks, they're confiding things they've never told anyone. And the helper now has leverage. They know your vulnerabilities, your secrets, your shame. This is called trauma bonding. The person offers comfort in your pain, then causes more pain, then offers comfort again. You become neurologically attached to them because they're both the source of your suffering and your relief. The dark psychology here is understanding that emotional pain creates an opening, and some people will exploit that opening without hesitation. The tragedy? People who most need human connection are most vulnerable to this tactic. The fifth and final tactic: authority and unquestioning deference. Humans are biologically wired to defer to authority. This made sense evolutionarily. In a tribe, the leader usually had the most survival knowledge. Following the leader meant survival. Questioning authority meant risk. But that wiring is still in your brain. Today, when someone presents themselves as an authority, a doctor, a professor, a spiritual leader, someone in uniform, your brain automatically grants them credibility. Your critical thinking shifts into neutral. You're more likely to believe them, more likely to follow their instructions, more likely to ignore your own intuition if it conflicts with their authority. This is why the Milgram experiments were so horrifying. Researchers found that ordinary people would administer what they believed to be lethal electric shocks to another person, simply because an authority figure in a lab coat told them to. Think about that. The study showed that authority bypasses your moral compass completely. You're not evil. You're just obeying someone you perceive as having legitimate power. And manipulators understand this. They construct false authority, false credentials, false expertise. Because once they're positioned as an authority, people stop questioning them. Cult leaders do this. Abusive relationships often involve someone positioning themselves as the expert on the relationship, on truth, on what's best for you. And you'll follow them. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is designed to follow authority. It's a feature, but it can be weaponized. Now, here's where this gets crucial. These 5 tactics rarely exist in isolation. The most effective manipulators, the ones who cause the most damage, they combine these tactics. They use social proof to make you doubt your own perception. They use intermittent reinforcement to keep you addicted. They give you the illusion of choice while narrowing your actual options. They exploit your emotional wounds, and they position themselves as an authority. Together, these mechanisms create a prison, not made of bars, made of your own psychology. And the people using these tactics? Some are consciously malicious. Some are unconsciously repeating patterns they learned. Some are narcissists. Some are ordinary people who discovered these tactics work and never stopped using them. But here's the hopeful part. And I want you to sit with this. Awareness is the antidote. Once you understand these mechanisms, you see them. Once you see them, they lose power. It's like learning the trick behind a magic illusion. You can still enjoy the illusion, but you'll never be fooled by it again. The goal of this channel, the goal of understanding dark psychology, isn't to make you paranoid or cynical. It's to make you aware. It's to give you the psychological literacy to protect yourself and the people you care about. So, what's your takeaway from this? You now know 5 mechanisms that are actively being used to influence you right now, in your relationships, in your media consumption, in your work, in your beliefs. The question isn't whether you'll encounter these tactics. You will. The question is, will you recognize them? If you want to continue exploring the shadow side of human psychology, the truths that most people avoid, subscribe to Psycho Veil. Every week, we'll go deeper. We'll explore the psychology of manipulation, deception, power, influence, and the darker aspects of human nature. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because once you understand how the human mind can be weaponized, you'll never look at people or yourself the same way again. The question is no longer whether you're being manipulated. The question is, by what exactly?